Hola, bienvenidos a another Satchel class. Soy Mr. Castrillon, and today we're going to talk about physical description. However, we are going to also include some personality traits or personality characteristics that we can actually use when we are describing other people or when we are describing ourselves. Today's lesson is a Key Stage 3 lesson. It's meant to be for year 7s, but it does not mean that if you're on year 8, year 9, even year 10 or 11, you can actually practice with us. We are going to revise some very important words. We are going to describe some people, and we're going to learn a bit more words that we can add to our different sentences and our general knowledge, but also we are going to then add some of these personality traits to our sentences. Okay. Just going to start my hoy vamos a describir personas físicamente. Vamos a aprender vocabulario para describir la personalidad y vamos a decir cómo nos gustaría ser. 3 very important and simple objectives today. Now, very important before we continue, remember that it's really important to take notes, but also feel free to come back to this lesson so you can actually pause the lesson and take pictures or take notes of the lesson. Feel free to do so. We are not going to be selfish and we are going to say you're not allowed to do so. Always check what we are learning today and in every lesson that we have. Now, before we start, I have this really very complete map of how to describe people. Now, something important is that we have 2 verbs to describe people. We use 2 verbs in Spanish, one of them being ser and the other one of them being tener. Ser literally means to be. And in one of our lessons, we were talking about doctor and place, which is a really easy way to remember which one to use when we have to be. Remember that to be in Spanish can mean ser or estar. So it's really important to know which one we are going to be using. Now, today, because we're going to be talking about physical description, which means that we are not going to be changing that much and it's somehow a more permanent situation, we are going to be using ser. Now, we have delgado, gorda, slim, chubby. By the way, and the same as in English, you need to be very careful with some of the words that you use, particularly the word gorda. It can be very offensive to some people and you don't want to use it in Spanish. Some people don't like that sort of word. However, if we have to describe someone and we are not intending to offend anybody, we are allowed to use the word gorda or gordo. Also, notice that I'm using the ending OA. Do you know why that is the case? Can you guess? Exactly, because we have feminine and masculine. Now, on my pictures here, I have a slim boy, un chico delgado, and una chica gorda. And in that case, of course, I need to balance the sound of my sentences or my phrases. So, for instance, with chico delgado, I need to say at the end of delgado, I need to use O just to show that the word is masculine and is also matching my noun, which is also masculine. Then we have baja, alto, short, tall, feo, guapo, which is ugly and handsome. So as you can see, we are looking at the contraries, and you're going to be learning lots of contrary words today, or what we call as antonyms, antonymous. calvo, morena, rubia, castaña, pelirroja. As you can see, these are the types of hair, right? And you're gonna notice something interesting, and it's with hair, we can use either ser or tener. And the difference is not quite big, other than the fact that ser would be a more permanent thing. And you'll see that throughout the lesson today. Then we have something really important, which is where people come from, because that is also part of the physical description of a person. Soy colombiano. Eres inglés. Eres escocés. Escocesa. Inglesa. Irlandés. Irlandesa. Galés. Galesa. As you can see, I am using all these words that are nationalities. And of course, they are part of our physical description of a person. And when we do that, we need to use ser. Then we have tener. Now, I want you to notice this IE in brackets. And why is it so important? Well, when we are describing people, so say for instance, we are talking about a friend. Let's say my friend is called Carlos. And I want to talk about Carlos's hair, or I'm talking about some very important, unique traits that he has, like freckles or glasses or braids or beard, like in my case, or a mustache, then we will say tiene. Carlos tiene. It literally means Carlos has. Carlos has got. So, really important to remember here that the word tener, which I have here in green, the verb tener, will suffer a small change. And that is just because tener is what we call an irregular verb. But we'll talk about that, about those ones in another lesson. For the time being, just remember that tiene is the same as has got or has. Now, we have tiene, and we're talking about different hairstyles. Tiene el pelo rizado, liso, corto, largo. Tiene el pelo moreno, rubio, castaño, pelirrojo. O tiene pecas, tiene gafas, tiene trenzas, tiene bigote, tiene barba. Feel free to take a picture of this. Feel free to use it when you are describing pictures or other people, because it's going to be very important when you are actually doing it for your exam, or when you're actually just talking about other people to your parents or your friends. Okay? That's good. So let's do some description here. Let's start with this girl called Pilar. ¿Cómo es Pilar? So I want you to take a look at what she looks like. Her skin color, her hair, the type of hair. Is she chubby? Is she slim? And let's see where we can come up with a description of Pilar. Okay, let's do it. Pilar tiene el pelo negro y rizado. What are we talking about right now? Indeed, we are talking about Pilar's hair. Pilar tiene los ojos negros. We are talking about her eyes. And really important, listen to the pronunciation of the word eyes in Spanish. Ojos. Tiene los ojos negros. Now, this is something very common. Most people tend to say ojos. But if you say hoyos in Spanish, you will be actually saying a very different word in Spanish. It's not rude, but it's different. Tiene la piel morena. She has, she's brunette. Pilar es alta y delgada. Now, keep an eye on this alta and delgada. I made my two adjectives match my sentence. It's really important. Why? Because Pilar is a girl. And my adjectives need to match the person I'm talking about. If I'm talking about a boy, then I'll have to say, or I will have to say, alto, delgado. Now let's talk about Lola. Have a look at Lola and try to kind of identify specific traits. I'm going to give you 1 minute for you to try and work out what Lola looks like. Okay, let's do it. Lola es rubia, correct. Tiene el pelo largo y liso. Tiene los ojos azules y tiene la piel blanca. Lola es baja y española. That's great. We have a really good number of sentences here that we can use to describe people. So, Lola es rubia, as we can see, she is blonde. Tiene el pelo largo y liso. She's got long, straight hair. Tiene los ojos azules. Ojos, remember the pronunciation of that one. Tiene la piel blanca. Lola es baja y española. Well, I'm sure you're familiar with this very important character in France. ¿Cómo es Obélix? Obélix es muy gordo. Tiene el pelo largo. Es pelirrojo. That's great. Although there are very short sentences, once again, we are describing what Obélix looks like. By the way, es francés. Obélix es francés. ¿Cómo es Isabel? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes for you to try and identify things that make Isabel the person she is. Think about her hair. Is she slim? Or is she chubby? Is she tall or is she short? What do you think? Here we go. Isabel es rubia, correct. Tiene el pelo largo y liso. Lleva gafas. Es delgada. Es alta. Perfect. Really important here. We have learned how to describe Isabel just as we did before, but we have added something else to it, which is the word llevar. Now, this is very important because when we define or when we identify or when we describe people, we wear glasses. And llevar, which I'm going to put here, means to wear. So, ella lleva gafas. It's a good one. Ella lleva zapatos púrpura. Now, really important here, where in this case is lleva. Ella lleva. Good. Let's continue. ¿Cómo es Marta? Can you identify what Marta looks like? Look, keep an eye on her hair, her eye color, her skin color. Is she slim? Is she chubby? Is she tall, short? And always remember, we are describing her and we need to be respectful when we do it. So let's see what we say. Marta es pelirroja. Tiene el pelo largo y liso. Tiene los ojos marrones. Ella es baja y delgada. Couple of things before we continue. Notice how I pronounce the J in the word baja. Baja. Es baja y delgada. I will repeat all of this one because it's a really good one. Marta es pelirroja. Tiene el pelo largo y liso. Tiene los ojos marrones. Es baja y delgada. As you can see, there are a couple of words that will have a double R in them, which means that you'll have to, I would say, make the sound of the R bit stronger. I know most of us struggle with that sound when we are learning Spanish, but it's really important to practice because it will make our pronunciation sound a lot better. ¿Cómo es Luis? Let's have a look and see what Luis looks like. Luis es castaño. Tiene el pelo liso y corto. Tiene los ojos verdes. Es alto y delgado. Tiene pecas. A very good description here. And always when you're putting them together, put them together as a paragraph. And of course, it's going to look a lot better. I'm just giving you sentences here that you can use with all the descriptions. Also, I'm using something that is not very common when we are describing people, because we tend to use just the hair and the eyes, the color, the eyes, and the color of our eyes and everything else. But in this case, we are saying pecas, freckles. Very common word in Spanish, by the way. Un cantante colombiano, como es Juanes. So have a look at this very famous Colombian singer. His name is Juanes. What can you tell about his eyes, his hair? Is he long? Is he short? What about, does he have a beard? Or is he slim? Is he a bit chubby? What do you think? Well, Juanes no es muy alto. Tiene los ojos verdes. Tiene el pelo largo, liso y castaño. No es delgado ni gordo. Right, lots of things to actually talk about. First, and really important, have a look at the word castaño. Castaño is another way of saying brown, okay? And it's a very common word in the Spanish-speaking world. So try to remember that one, castaño. Also, look at, not always is about what the person looks like, but what the person doesn't look like. And in this case, we are saying that he's not chubby and he's not slim. And we put this in one sentence. No es delgado ni gordo. When you have a double negative, like in this case, feel free to do no ni. No es alto ni bajo. No es gordo ni delgado. No es, no tiene el pelo largo ni corto. So that's you saying it's not particularly kind of a unique type of hair. It's just normal or kind of a usual type of hair, if you like. And that you can show it by using no ni. But what about other things? Other types of descriptions. Now I want you to look at the green box. Me gustaría ser. I would like to be. And I would love you to take a picture of this because it has lots of descriptions, both physical and personal. So for example, I have alto, guapo, gordo, pequeño, mayor, moreno, ágil, castaño, flaco, enfermo, sucio. Now, underneath each word that you see there in the physical description, you will have what we call an antonym or an opposite word, which is the opposite to the word that I have just read. For instance, alto, we have bajo, guapo, feo. You have the opposites there, gordo, flaco, pequeño, grande, mayor, joven, calvo, peludo, and so on. I also have the personal description of someone. So we have alegre, valiente, nervioso, generoso, inteligente, listo, simpático, superficial, tímido, divertido, pesimista, activo. But I have also added to this list all these things that are the opposite. Por ejemplo, alegre, triste. Generoso, tacaño, egoísta. Divertido, aburrido. So feel free to take a picture of this and then just say what you would like to be. Me gustaría ser ágil. Me gustaría ser alto. Me gustaría ser alegre e inteligente. O me gustaría ser tímido y divertido. Pero no me gustaría ser vago. So look at what I'm doing. I'm not just using positive sentences, I'm also using negative sentences, and they also help. Muy bien. You learn words that we use to describe people, and you learn words to use to describe people's personalities. But you also learn how to use the structure me gustaría ser to say what you would like to be. Very well done to make it till the end of the lesson, and I hope I can see you very soon again on another Satchel class. Hasta muy pronto.